Welcome to the Short Funk Podcast. I'm Tom Barbalet. One of these things in the Short Funks that I like to do occasionally is just narrative, and I wanted to tell you a little bit about my day today. I worked from home today, and I had a couple of errands that I had to run around lunchtime, so I emailed the workmates and said, I'm going to be out of contact, and went out, and the first errand that I had to run was to get a haircut. I believe very strongly associated with walking in the neighbourhood, seeing the neighbourhood, getting a sense of what's going on in the neighbourhood, and that it's just something I like to do. I mean, particularly as vice president of the local community organisation, I just feel, I've got to see the neighbourhood, warts and all. And one of the things that has happened recently is the barber that I normally go to, who's an older Vietnamese woman, has left the shop that she was in and moved to another shop, and she's called me a few times. I tip very well, particularly for reasonable haircuts. And I guess, I'm just one of her better customers. So she's called me 3 times to check out her new shop. It's not really what I'm interested in doing. The shop is about, 2.5 miles away. So my preference is always with the local shop. And I went into the local barbers, which have changed hands, and younger Vietnamese women, and it just didn't feel the same. Anyway, I sat down to have my hair cut. I had initial reservations because the prices dropped dramatically. These are normally $13 haircuts. I normally give them $20 just because they're reasonable haircuts in a reasonable time frame. They're now charging $7 a haircut. So I sat down, and it was clear that I was getting a student barber who really didn't know what she was doing. And she kind of ran the clippers over my head repeatedly, like the clippers were blunt and not able to cut. And it was really getting a bit awkward. And then I noticed quite a strong body odor coming from her. And my initial reaction is just to kind of curl into myself when I have these kind of experiences. So I really wasn't paying attention to anything. I thought it was quite strange because it made me reflect on when I had smelt this odor previously. It was like one of those odors where I went back in my brain just to try and reflect on where I'd smelt this odor previously. And I was taken aback to Los Angeles in 1990 when I was there. The funk that I had smelt in a games store, funnily enough, buying some lead Citadel miniatures. One of the nerds had this kind of stench on them, and it was amazing kind of photographic, not even photographic, what would the term be? Olfactory teleportation back to this time. And I just thought, this is really amazing that my sense of smell can capture this thing so perfectly that I can be transported back to LA in 1990, which was the last time that I recall smelling something quite like this. So the haircut took 40 minutes, which for a male haircut is just not really acceptable. And I always felt like leaving at certain stages. Like when she was rubbing the clippers up against my scalp for the 7th time, my head was getting progressively numb. Or when she pulled my hair to cut it, to actually apply the scissors, it wasn't looking right. The whole thing just was not looking right. And I felt really stupid because I should have gone to the hairdresser that I knew. The whole thing about being close to this hairdresser, it wasn't a good haircut experience. At the end, the woman who's now running the shop came in and did, half a dozen alterations very quickly, pointed out a series of flaws that the woman had done. But I left with a really bad haircut. I paid $10 on the 7, so, $3 tip, which was clearly more tip than this woman had ever received in her life. She was very pleased about the whole thing. I'm not going to be going back, and quite frankly, my wife looked at this haircut and just pointed out a number of flaws, which I just didn't even want to recognize. So I'm going to let my hair grow back a little bit and then go to my original barber, tail between legs, saying, I'm sorry, this new place is just horrible. But my day wasn't over yet. I went and I had some pho, some Vietnamese pho, which I do periodically. I used to go on a weekly basis. I don't really go on a weekly basis anymore. I go maybe once a month, maybe twice a month now. It's kind of difficult because I work from home on Friday as well, and my wife stays home on Friday, so we like to have a meal together on Friday. And previously, when she didn't stay home on Friday, I would just go and get pho. So anyway, noodle soup, nothing too strange associated with this aside from the fact that work was kicking off, so I had to leave and get back to do things. The walk is, I don't know, maybe a third of a mile, maybe a quarter of a mile. It's not a huge walk. It's maybe 5-6 cross streets at most. And as I was walking back, literally 2 houses from our house, I saw a truck carrying cars. That's the best way that I can describe it. It's like a 2-level truck carrying probably 6 cars at the time. pulled over. And as I walked closer, I saw a gentleman wearing, surgical gloves going through the truck and putting all the stuff in plastic bags, which was really quite curious because it didn't make any sense why the guy was wearing surgical gloves. Then I got home and I thought this whole thing is rather strange, so I called the San Jose Police Department, gave a description of the truck, license plate number. I had to go out and get the license plate number, which is always really difficult when you're dealing with a potential crime situation. About 4 or 5 guys turned up and drove all the cars off the truck, and then the truck drove off. And a good portion of this was captured with some quality on our video cameras. The police have not called me back. What does one do in these circumstances? I mean, I did all I could. It was a strange situation. We do see people driving around San Jose wearing surgical gloves, which really irks me because it just appears that they're driving probably stolen vehicles, thus the surgical gloves. It's a very strange city, San Jose. It was strange talking to the 911 operator. She was like, well, do you think it's really a crime? Like, well, why the surgical gloves? And having seen the guys turn up and drive the cars off the truck, I think it probably was a crime. We live on a busy street. There's a lot of trucks and a lot of other traffic that comes through. You'd think they'd want to offload cars on a back street, but I think maybe the busyness of the street also contributed to the ease at which this whole thing was done. Welcome to San Jose. Anyway, that was my lunchtime adventure. Tom Barbalet in San Jose, signing out.